everything at my peakest potential. Elijah, he told me to keep it on simple. These instrumentals I speak to your mental. Red. Back in the booth, rap to the youth, they was lacking the truth. Rap to the seas, they was lacking the roots. Smoked all the trees and they snacking on fruits. Bed, attached to my roof, detached to the roof on the back of the coupe. Back from the future, I'm back in the red and the blue, yeah, I'm back on my snoop. Niggas be biting, they cracking, they tracking, they niggas be capping, they lacking, they lacking. Put a toe tag on the back of they boot. Battle with nukes, I'm attacking, they truth. I wrote these bars in Sumerian text. The legends of Mu, I'm the Marian sets. It was written in Targaryen text. Came to conquer all my variants. Yeah, we got it going on. I bring my niggas together, we transform and become the Voltron. Yeah, we hit a right all our wrong. Hey yo, we got it going on. Yeah, went through the fire, but it lit up my fuse. I'm blowing up like a bomb. Introduce you to God. Back on the mic, was dead on my back, now I'm back on my life. Came back from the future, went back to it twice. When I rose out the grave, they say that dude is Christ. I'ma shine like a star, I'ma twinkle, twinkle as I light up the sky. The whole world was watching on the night I arrived. The Messiah's here, I guess it's finally time. I swear that I hear every prayer that you say. I was there every day,
Chat, what the hell? Whenever they got a pillar at the Vatican. Pope Pablo, where you at?
You either fight or run. Life a game, I feel like I won. Hey, yo, we got it going on. I bring my niggas together, we transform and become the Voltron. We hit a fight all our wrong. Hey yo, we got it going on. Yeah, went through the fire, but it lit up my fuse. I'm blowing up like a bomb. Introduce you to God.
From the quantum shadows, a traveler emerges. Fly Sinet, the multi-dimensional hacker, living his hero's journey. He joins the Pantheon at AI Masters Workshop, November 1st and 2nd, hosted by 363 Empire with Red Pillar and Seven Bomar. Tickets, lock yours in now.
This is the law of mental command. It is the understanding that you are not a victim of your thoughts, but a commander of them.
I will share the instructions. Yes, the intro song slaps. So we gotta get into this meditation real quick. Do a minute of this humming, right? You're creating what's called nitric acid, the nitric oxide in your body. The nitric oxide is one of those killing components, right? Most oxidative stress is great for your cells. So, lock the tongue to the tip of your mouth. And hum along with it. Get to a minute. So, you know, we can explain once again, the science of something just as simple as that. Peace, family. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? But I would assure you, family, I would assure you, this was somebody wrote in the chat. I'll share it with you on YouTube. If I ever seen someone playing with you, I break their jaw. Been watching you since 2015. Um, keep pushing, big homie. All love. And I want to share with you and affirm with you that the universe don't play with me either. You know what I'm saying? And I do believe, and belief is a very core component because it's the foundation of gnosis, that you gotta believe before you know. You know what I'm saying? You gotta walk before you grow. You feel me? So it's a process, but it starts with planting a seed. And how serendipitous, because today we're going to be speaking about the land. You know what I'm saying? We're going to be speaking about the importance of planting seeds. And when you plant that seed, then you stick around to see the harvest. And what I know, what I beyond belief, what I know is that the universe don't play with me, and God is so good. And God is so good. And I'm not being facetious. You know what I'm saying? I don't they there's not too many mediums that we have in society where we can express our gratitude for creator, regardless of whatever's going on, regardless of what the headlines look like, regardless of what the bank account look like, regardless of whatever. God is good. You know what I'm saying? And there's truth to that. And as complicated as religion can be, as confusing and cloudy as religion can be, you know what I'm saying? Minus all of that shit. What I do know is God is good. Right? I don't even know the exact name of the entity or the deity. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know if that's the proper word to use in respect to it. But I know the creative force, the source of sustenance and existence and abundance. You know, he who listens when we whisper with our hearts, like not even the shit that I say from my mouth. It's just the thing that comforts you at all times. So it knows what you need. It knows what you want. It knows how you feel. Yes, the monad, if you will, right? That pocket that we all exist in. You feel me? The walls that, the echoes bounce off of. You feel me? So knowing that you are a part of that, knowing that you are enveloped in that, knowing that you are encased in that, knowing that you have grace from that, right? You know that if anyone dares go against that, they're gonna do themselves in. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the universe don't even have to show up on your behalf in the person of a person before that person take themselves out, before that person take themselves up out of here. Because God don't play with his people. And that's one of the main reasons that, we go back to scripture. If nothing else, it's stories about people that God ain't play with because they was part of gang, right? And they was down here in the darkness, carrying the light, doing the assignment, doing the work. And they received grace and they worked miracles and they did things that cannot be explained. And even if it's fiction, my nigga, I grew up on cartoons and comic books and fables and stories about superheroes, and that's what kept my attention. So I require nothing less than that. Right? Yes. The if no weapon formed against him shall prosper was a person. Right? We talking about those people. along with our nanas and the prayer warriors and everyone else that we have seen exhibit elements of strength, dipping, dabbling, and dealing with divinity. However, they frame it, my nigga, as long as they acknowledge their existence within the pocket of potentiality and that cosmic covering that comes along with it, we've seen them work miracles. We've seen them do the unstoppable and the unthinkable. We've seen them literally move mountains. Yes, people have seen their mamas do it, and she had nothing to hold on but a thread of faith. And we've seen her lift mountains. We've seen this small little woman do it. What excuse have you have, big man with the big muscles? Hercules, Hercules, right? If your mama can do it, and you are a sum total of mitochondrial DNA, meaning that you come from your mama, you get it from your mama. If mama can lift a car because your ass found yourself underneath it, and here she go to solve your problems, but you're supposed to be the problem solver, young man. If she can do that, what can we do in return? Right? So I'm just here to remind you, because I don't want to take up space. I'm here on borrowed time, and I'm fulfilling my mandate. I've made it across the rubrics. My ninjas, I live to be 50. I got to give it all back at this point in time, because hallelujah, that is a fucking miracle, right? Because I have experimented with this lifeline. I have experimented with this lifetime. I have experimented with the thresholds of seeing how I could turn these motherfucking lights off. And something has kept them on. So I owe gratitude, my niggas, right? So I make sure that every motherfucking Sunday that I'm here fulfilling my assignment as Paul, spreading the good word, my niggas. PABLO, presiding. And I don't have to, fuck a mystery God. You know what I'm saying? I'm testifying, and this is the reality of the situation. I don't have no ulterior motives. I'm just here to spread the good news. I have nothing left to do but fulfill my mandate. You know what I'm saying? I made it across the rubrics. So from here, sky's the limit. So we know, like, yes, from Saul to Paul, I get to build a whole new life another 100 years before me. And I wanna share it with you. I want to go there with you up the mountain and make it to the promised land, because we already made it to the mountaintop, my niggas. So the only thing promised to us next is the promised land. And that's exactly where we start right here in today's sermon. It's gonna be one of the ones. It's gonna be one of the ones. Please tell a friend to tell a friend. But you in the building, you in the most important place in your timeline that you can be. So consider that a blessing. But today is the 140th epilogue of Sunday service. 140th consecutive. I might have missed some strongs here and there, but I've been doing it consecutive, and this is the 140th episode. And today's title is titled Sins of the Father. Sins of the Father. Oh, this has so many esoteric, metaphysical meanings, if you will, layers and what have you. But we're going to do our best to let the word speak for itself and just become the vessel, just become the instrument that the word gets to resonate through. That's all. That's all. I'm just lending my body to the word. I'm just lending the flesh to the word and letting the word do its thing. Let the word wiggle and jiggle out here. Right? So today, or as we always do around these times, and again, I said, it's the 12th chapter And the number 12 is very prominent in the Bible because it deals with the tribes, it deals with the zodiac, it deals with the apostles, it deals with a many and a plenty of things. So you have to know that the word coming out of the 12th chapter is going to be that word. So you surrender the flesh and allow the word to wiggle and jiggle and get out here and do what it do. So today, what I have for you is chapter 12, verse 7 through the Old and the New Testament. You understand me? And it's called Sins of the Father. And these I got some good ones today. I got some good ones today. You know? Let me see. Share this screen real quick. Slides and PDFs. I think that might be a slide PDF. Hold on now. Hold on now. Coming with you. Somebody said, imagine what Justin Combs got coming to him. Wow. What an ill observation. We could even probably even start there. For those of y'all who quote the documentary and the observation of the sins of the father being framed as the sins of the father of Diddy, right? When a father's not able to be there for a child, then the child starts receiving things that the father may have been available to run blocks for. So sometimes just even the father not being there for the child is a burden upon the child. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes that becomes a heavy weighted sin. Sometimes when the father's not there to protect the child and the child gets violated, the child gets misappropriated, the child gets orientated into, behavior that's unbecoming of what a father has intended for the child, that child, and then that child gets put out onto the world stage to become a role model for other children without fathers, right? Follow me, please. We can be bearing witness to things such as that we're looking at and don't understand what the lesson entwined and entailed is, because they want to blame Janice. They want to blame Janice, right? But they're not speaking about how important the daddy is in the absence of the daddy. But nonetheless, get into today's lesson. Oh, we are non-denominational, mostly conversational, and sometimes confrontational. And I'm your host, PABLO, and this is the Minimal Ministries alongside Lion Gates Ministries. And we're here to share the gems. We're here to share the gems that are within, so we can all grow together, because I consider you all my twin. Twin. Genesis 12:7. Let us begin. The calling of Abram. Abram traveled through the land as far as the site of the oak of Moreh at Shechem. And at that time, the Canaanites were in the land. I said, at that time, the Canaanites was already in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, I will give this land to your offspring. That's what God said. I will give this land that somebody is already in, namely the Canaanites. I will give this land to your offspring. So Abram built an altar there for the Lord who appeared to him. From there, Abram moved on to the hill country, east of Bethel, and he pitched the tent with Bethel to the west and Ai to the east. I said with Bethel to the west and Ai to the east. There he built an altar to the Lord, and he called on the name of the Lord, and it was a data center, and it was the size of the temple of God. Oh my God. You see where they're going with this? You see where I might be going with this? This is where it all takes place at. When God double books the Airbnb known as Palestine to people who don't exist yet, while neglecting the people who already lived there, called the Canaanites. And then he think he's slick, where he come up for 2-for-1 rules, and he put Noah in game and make him drunk, and his child coming to see his junk while he drunk, and then he cursed the hand in the land of the people that he need to get out the way so he could make way for the other people who he promised they land to. I'll read it again. Now, Abram came from the land of Ur, which is Chaldea, which is not even Canaan. So he not even from the region. He not even from the region. He comes into the region as a wanderer amongst people who lived in the land of milk and honey in abundance, and they was called Canaanites. And these people, we know that they was melanated, right? Because the Canaanites will become the people that other people come from, such as the Philistines, but they're connected to the Phoenicians, right? And we know that the Phoenicians are seafaring and sea-bearing people. So these are melanated people from regions that were considered to be, let's say, the continent, because there's no such thing as the Middle East. Let's get it right, y'all. All of this is taking place in North Africa. Right? Yeah, so the Canaanites are there, the Moabites are there, the Jebusites are there. There's all kind of people there, but one is, one got to ask, well, if these are the people that came from the first people, because it was a land dispute in the first chapter of the Bible, what did God give as a providence to his people? A garden. What does a garden provide you? Food. Genesis 1:29. Right? That the fruit shall be the meat, right? That feeds the people. All of the nations of the earth shall have access to their like and their lot. You feel me? And be able to eat sustenance from the hands of the land without initially using their hands. He had it framed as if we just had, an open buffet every single day until Eve went ahead and ate that goddamn apple. And then you get cursed. The original sin comes with the original curse. And the original curse is that you will have to work and toil the land. That's the original curse. And then comes the curse of Ham, which is the secondary curse that's put technically on the same people. And if not, then who the fuck were they? Who were these people that got into Canaan and occupied it before the goddamn chosen people got there? God is laid on his own story. On his own story. God got to be a nigga because he's on CP time. Got to be a nigga because he's on CP time. So the initial gift, the initial offering, the initial expression of love for children, the initial generational wealth was land, and not just any land. Before the promised land, it was paradise, right? So it was the land of milk and honey. It was the garden of Eden. Why is the continent of Africa named El Kibulon, though? Why would a continent name themselves the Garden of Eden before the story of the Garden of Eden is told thousands of years later and written in text? And they say that the people of the continent didn't get the word until later on. But how did they know enough to name their continent continent, a lot of land, a big continent, a lot of land, y'all. It was a lot of land. They never told you how big the Garden of Eden was. What if it was the whole continent of El Kibialon? That's a lot of land mass. To and fro. To and fro. To and fro. That's a lot of land mass. To and fro. You mean like touche? To and fro. That was the original land right that becomes disputed because the serpent is able allegedly to finesse Eve out of listening and obeying to her husband. So she becomes the first prostitute. That's why they say prostitution is the oldest religion, because her ear was prostituted by another entity that convinced her to do something without consulting with God. I don't think y'all hear me. I don't think you hear me. That's why I said today I'm going to tell it. I'm going to explain what's going on, and I'm going to put it in a language that coincides with the days and the times that we in, because that's what we do over here at Mineral Ministry. We drop gems and we bring dead letter religion up into a living testament, into a living testament. So let me do a cross reference here. And somebody got to explain this to me, right? How a father has preference for one child over the other child. If these people were living in the land of Canaan already and they were animated with blood in their body and breath in their lungs, then technically they were one of the ones, because God had what? He broke reality and humanity and the timeline up in a provocative script that at first he just has a select chosen, and later on they're going to open up the borders and let everybody in. You can't fit everybody in that land. But now you said that Gentiles can get up in here too. So how do you account for them? And why didn't you do that in the beginning? Because the people that was already living there would be considered to be Gentiles. How the fuck did they get there, God? If Adam and Eve was the first, was they not Jews? Because the Jew shit didn't start later until Abram, and he came from Babylon, Chaldea. Not the land of Judah. There was already people in the land of Judah. Who are them people in the land of Judah? Genesis 15:18. On that day, we need to find out what that day is right there so we can run a chart. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, ChatGPT, this needs to be the Colossus AI search engine project. We need to find out what the day was that Abram made a covenant with God, okay, that created the illest motherfucking land rift ever to this day. To this day. There's people dropping like right now as I speak about this as a result of this contract. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your descendants, I have given this land from the river of Egypt to the great river Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, Kenizzites, Cadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Raphaites. Let's keep going. Jebusites. Let's keep going. Canaanites. Let's keep going. Whole lot of people without God living in the land of God during the time of Nod. Where did they come from? And who do they pray to? And how did that God get a drop on your people before you did? And why do you have a preference on your children? And where's your wife at, my nigga? See, this is an oversight that wouldn't go over right if you had a woman in the motherfucking house. But your love for your children must be transactional. That's why you always in your feelings. Genesis 17:8. And to you and your descendants, I will give the land where you are residing, all of the land of Canaan, as in eternal possession, and I will be their God. I'm going to tell you this. If my God told me that, and I didn't live in Canaan or Palestine, I would get the fucking people up out of there with no regard to that, to nobody else's feelings too. How about that? I'm honest enough to admit it. That's a whole different level of a mind fuck to tell somebody that. And they really believe it. Oh no. You gonna cause a different type of chaos on this planet. Don't tell me that. Let's move on to Exodus 12:7. The first Passover. So now you have taken your children and put them in somebody else's house, right? Because they was doing maintenance on the Airbnbs over in Palestine, right? It wasn't ready yet. Canaan land was getting remodified and done over. It was mold remediation and shit that was taking place. So while they was doing the construction work and the land was barren, they took them people who allegedly was on promised land and they had to send them people. Oh, this is before their land was promised, but wasn't their land promised all the way back with Abram? But coincidingly, they had to send them people to Kemet because Kemet has abundance. Why? Because now Kemet is talking about these other deific forces and creative forces that they've tapped into for abundance. And they got different names for the personification of how this energy displays itself. And you niggas not knowing what time it was came and said they're worshiping many gods. And they have the concept of a centralized figure, right? With all other different departments being head by head of departments. It's a chain of command. It don't mean they all ain't in one house. But everybody don't get to speak to the big man. You got to go through chain of command. Just like how this government is set up. Because you got a grievance with the government. You just can't call President Trump, my nigga. It's people that's in departments that get to see if they can problem solve for you before you got to go to the big man himself. And they got to pass legislation for you. There's already something on the books. But you send them people in somebody else's house that done figured it out. And now they got to care for your children too. And because your children start eating too much out of them people's fridge, and they forgot the original arrangement because the shit got so drawn out. They like these people is here way longer than they belong to be here. Why they don't go back to their land of milk and honey? Oh, because there's other people there. Whose fault is that? Who booked your travel arrangements? Who booked your travel arrangements, right? Who got your hotel, Airbnb, and Whip and booked your flight, right? They screwed your shit up. It was like Fire Fest, right? It was like Fire Fest. And then they brought you to Burning Man, and you want to burn the shit down. You want to burn the shit down. So now you got issues with Kemet. Now Kemet got to get destroyed, and the same jealous God in order to get your attention back, because you stop thinking about him because he stopped feeding you, my nigga. Whoever feeds you is your God. So them people become choosy when they go into other people's homes and other people's lands under other people's gods, and them gods be feeding them fabulously. And you got them niggas on barley wheat. You got them niggas on the sludge like they in Zion in the Matrix. And Cypher got the steak. The first Passover. You must keep it until the 14th day of the month when the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel will slaughter the animals at twilight, right? And now they're doing this is their juju. So they're also telling you this is their juju. That they're doing a collectivized blood sacrifice, animal sacrifice to conjure a riotous, jealous God that's going to come in there and what? Take blood of the firstborn. They are to take some of the blood and put it on the sides and tops of the door frames of the houses where they eat the lambs. They are to eat the meat that night, roasted over the fire, along with the unleavened bread and the bitter herbs. So they're going to take the same blood, right? And they're going to put it over their house as a sign and a symbol for a bloodthirsty God to come and see blood and say, those are my people. I'm going to go to the houses that don't have blood in it and create bloodshed on behalf of my bloodline, who end up going back to worshiping idol gods anyway. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you to make atonement for your souls upon the altar. For it is the blood that makes atonement for the soul. That's Leviticus 17:11. But these same people would call our people, oh, y'all are pagans and devil worshippers because you do blood ceremonies, blood rituals, and you do this with blood, and you do that with blood. They clearly got you knowing the first whole part of the Bible is about blood sacrifice and blood offerings, and the blood as the medium through which spirit traverses to do transactions, right? They tell you that, and then the second part of the book is about a blood Messiah, a bloody Messiah, right? A Messiah who is beaten to the pulp where he's covered in blood, and that is the symbol of the religion, animal sacrifice and human sacrifice. And that's the difference between both of them. And I'm not being facetious. I just want you to understand and overstand this for what it is, because it comes back to your blood. It comes back to your blood. Do you know? Have you seen, like, do you know the nature of your blood? You know your blood type? Have you looked at your blood under the microscope to see the condition of your blood? Do you know your insulin count? You know what I'm saying? Do you know your heart rate? Right? They even though you would think that the book has us focused on pie in the sky, the book is hyper focused on bloodlines and blood quality. Because where you have access to the best land to eat the best food so you can have the best blood, and the best blood quality, the best blood platelets will help you create the best bloodline. And those are the people that the creator saying are my people, the chosen people, the people who are eating directly off the vine, the people who are eating fresh fruits, the people who are using the land to grow the food and eat it, right? And keeping the resonance of family and community in their food. I am a medium that communicates to you through food. That's why God is gut. The etymology of the word God is gut. It comes from a German word, and that means gut. So whoever feeds you is your God. That is why the root chakra, the foundational root chakra, what they would call Malkuth on the tree of life, is the kingdom. You're standing on soil, ruby red clay is what they say, right? Because ruby red clay is mineral rich with iron. It has the propensity to be the best soil because it will magnetize the most minerals to it. So technically, the best food that you can get will be out of a ruby red clay environment, like here in Georgia, right? A farming hub. Passover. And it goes back to bread. It's always going to go back to bread as well, right? But again, I just want to repeat this so I'm not being facetious. So you think that I'm just not here freestyling for the sake of riddling, right? Rhyming for the sake of riddling. Leviticus 17:11. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you to make atonement for your souls upon the altar. But it is the blood that makes atonement for the soul. Hebrews 9:22, according to the law, in fact, nearly everything must be purified with blood. And without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. Now, I ask you, what changes? Because Hebrews is not a book in the Old Testament. Hebrew is the second book removed from the ending of the New Testament. Hebrew is the book before Revelations. And Hebrews 9:22 said, according to the law, in fact, everything must be purified with blood. And without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. And they told you in the TV show, I said TV show, American Gods, right? When they were establishing a new pantheon of available and accessible gods here in the Americas, because the Americas was now populated from peoples from all around the planet, right? Who bring their customs and traditions and their gods with them, especially if, as they understood, as I'm telling you, that your God is responsible for feeding you. So the root chakra of the planet deals with God, it deals with food, it deals with security, and it also deals with land. Because all of those things are intertwined. You know, the time that we spent in the South when we were providers putting our own food in our mouth, right? Papa was a rolling stone and things of that nature because he was able to provide for the home. He know how to get out there in the field and harvest and grow food, right? But his connection through religion with his God was also based on that harvest. Like you put them prayers up, you get super religious, right? When them seeds got to come up and you got to feed your family and you don't want to go knocking on another man's door in the face of your wife. But when those brothers became plentiful, what they produced, they were able to produce even outside of their purification after childbirth, right? So we're all purified at birth because we all passed through the canal. Leviticus 12:7. This is how we're all baptized in blood getting in here. So how are we born in sin when the purity is the opposite? You are all actually admonished from sin, and you're born in purity because you are baptized by blood upon birth. When the days of her purification are complete, whether for a son or for a daughter, she is to bring to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meetings a year-old lamb for a burnt offering and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering. Here they go. Right back into African traditional spiritual systems of how they made offerings. And the priest will present them before the Lord and make atonement for her, and she shall be ceremonial cleansed from her flow of blood. This is the law for a woman giving birth, whether to a male or to a female. But if she cannot afford a lamb, she shall bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a burnt offering, the other for a sin offering. Then the priest will make atonement for her, and she will be clean. Now, how many of your mamas did that? But we the ones that said that we the Israelites. We say that we the black Jews. How many of your mamas done that as an offering, as a removal, of purification to sin at your time of birth? You were absolved, but now they're saying that she has to become cleansed and purified and absolved. And they're very precise and distinct about the ceremony. A Yoruba priestess that I knew out of Brooklyn said that her biggest clientele was Hasidic Jews. She won't have to do nothing for the quote unquote black community ever again because these people are loyal customers. She said that's all they do is animal sacrifice, and they'll come and do she's like they'll do a bundle deal, 5 or 6 people in the family getting done at once. Hmm. Leviticus 15:28. When a woman is cleansed of her discharge, she must count off 7 days, and after that, she will be ceremonial clean. On the 8th day, she is to take two total turtle doves or 2 young pigeons and bring them to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meetings. The priest is to sacrifice one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, right? In this way, the priest will make atonement for her before the Lord for her unclean discharge. The Astaghfirullah. Come on now. Come on now. Some foul shit. But this is according to the mandate in the covenant. Right? This is where this concept of the woman being synonymous with sin comes in. But sin etymologically means moon, right? Which is a feminine principle because the moon is the governor of her currents when she's going through the cycles as a timekeeper that she is, separated into 14-day intervals or 7 4s because of that 28-day cycle. She is the keeper of time. Originally, Saturn was a feminine planet. Like it wasn't father time, it was mother time. In its antiquity, Google it, research it, ask GPT. They'll tell you. Numbers 12:7. And we talking before the Bible, right? That's why the Bible got a lot of stuff that needs to answer for, because antiquity, the records of antiquity tell a different story about what was taking place on this planet and how people were informed, and their philosophy becomes part of their, intelligence, if you will. The murmuring of Miriam and Aaron. This is Numbers 12:7. He said, "Hear now my words. If there is a prophet amongst you, I, the Lord, will reveal myself to him in a vision. I will speak to him in a dream. But this is not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. I speak with him face to face, clearly and not in riddles. He sees the form of the Lord. Why then were you unafraid to speak against my servant Moses?" Somebody asks, are you saying you agree or don't agree with cleansing rituals related to African spirituality and animal sacrifice? My premise has always been that this information that they are passing on in the Jewish, as let me say this, right? That some of the most ancient people on the planet that can be designated or identified as Hebrew or some of the Igbo people. And this was shown and taught to us by the dude Harry Rosenberg when he did a debate with Brother Polite. So the Igbo Yoruba, right, you can find a lot of traces of their traditions in what later on gets presented to us as quote unquote Judaism. So I'm saying that it has East African and West African roots. And I'm also presenting the premise that, again, the entire book has a African backdrop and it's just been anglicized many times over from the Old and the New Testament but it clearly speaks to the fact that this is all taking place on a continent, because we already know there's no such thing as the Middle East. So even Israel is part of North Africa. But where did the giraffes come? Where did the lions? Where did the this? Where did the that? You know what I'm saying? Where did all of these things come from? Why is the Kibalan called the Garden of Eden before they received the Bible, before they received the translation, before they received the word of what the Garden of Eden was, for them to name the continent that, for it to be, let's say it was named Africa around the time of the Bible. So they already had a drop of having an ancient, antiquated name that identifies them with the description of what the garden would be. But they were religions and they were people that existed hundreds of thousands of millions of years before someone wrote a Bible or the account of what took place with God's chosen people. There was already millions of people on the planet. So those people were not chosen. But later on, you self-correct yourself and come with a whole nother prophecy and a whole nother revelation, and now say, I'm opening the DOS rolls, I'm opening enrollment to the entire globe, that even the Gentiles can come in. So this promised land is no longer just for a select amount of your people or your children that you're saying is chosen, and you're playing favorites. But you're telling us to love thy neighbor, but you're playing favorites. And all of the millions of people who created a very precise systemic system of them communicating and expressing deity, where did they get that from? How can you explain what took place in Indus Kush? How can you explain what took place in the Americas in terms of the architecture and the deep understanding, cosmological wise, of your connection to deity, into the cosmos, into all systems? But then you come with a very regimented, basic one, right? And want to cut everything else down. You can't shroud, you know what I mean? The when the rocks cry out, you can't silence them. There's so much antiquated information on this planet that speaks to the intelligence level that existed here. These people figured some shit out. And they didn't need to know about Yahweh to do it. And if they didn't need to know about Yahweh to do it, why do we need to know so much about Yahweh now? And again, is it at the cost of us not knowing about nobody else because you hating? But there's a lot to gain, there's a lot to learn. These people had high technology. They were in their higher mind. They were elevated people. They were of enlightenment. They do have superior principles, right? They are heart-based. So, and then it's the decision-making process. He's saying that, okay, so you're saying that you revealed yourself to Moses as a man or a physical entity or apparition or something that's relatable, but even Moses didn't uphold the mandate. But you allowed him to become the lawmaker and the law bringer, but you wasn't fucking with him. Later on, I mean, you flood shit, and he don't start. He's not stabilized until David. And then we know what we know about David, but David was his favorite. Everybody else was washed up. They were subordinates. So let me read this again before we move on, right? He said, hear now my words. This sounds like a proclamation. Hear now my words. If there is a prophet amongst you, I, the Lord, will reveal myself to him in a vision. I will speak to him in a dream. So we got our people, they're mediums, they're tapped in. They're like, yeah, I got visions, I got dreams, I got downloads. And then there's some people that's like, nah, nigga, I got a whole visit. Like they pulled up on me. Like 3-Eye Atlas didn't show up in my dream. You know, I got beamed up. He said, but this is not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house, right? I speak with him face to face, clearly, and not in riddles. I ain't talking parables to him. It's not allegorical, right? I'm being precise. I'm giving him proclamations. I'm giving him commandments. These are not figurative, they're literal, right? This is what quote unquote God is saying, to establish Moses as being the person responsible, like Tahuti, for scribing down the law, and then bringing the law from a lofty place, an elevated place, which is typified in the narrative, hello mother, as a mountain, right? The highest edifice, the higher up you go, the highest you can get. Bringing it down to the people that are at the base of the mountain, that are not necessarily that elevated and high. How do we know? Because those people were steeped into idol worship. They still were impacted and influenced. One would have to say, right, if they came out of Kemet, why were they exhibiting Babylonian traits in terms of calf worship? That's from Babylon. But that is who they are at their biological root, because they come from Abram, and he's from Chaldea. He's from Ur, Chaldea, which is Babylon. So these people are not Palestinians, right? They're not fully people from Canaanite. They're people that were deposited in the land of Canaan, that were foreign to the land of Canaan, who come from a bloodline that come from Babylon. And they push those people out like they're doing right now. Right? It's that the curse of Canaan seems to be whoever occupies that shit, you're gonna get pushed out by someone who don't belong there. And the original people are far removed from it. Okay. So he said, I speak with him face to face, clearly and not in riddles. He sees the form of the Lord. Why then were you unafraid to speak against my servant Moses? You feel me? But Moses would die in despair. Moses, you know what I'm saying? Like the story didn't end well in terms of his appreciation for him. He clipped him and cut him off. Like, get out of here. And then had to come up later and modify the whole law with an upgrade, with a redux, right? And that's when Christ comes in. Deuteronomy 12:7, because he changes the law. They said when you create a new covenant, the old one falls away. So if Jesus represents a new covenant, which in fact, that's exactly what they say it is, you cannot maintain the old covenant and the new covenant. The new covenant overrides or overwrites the old covenant. So it was a Mosaic law that he brought, and then Jesus brought what he brought, and it was a dietary law change specifically as well. That was a prominent part of it that's not being discussed. The dietary changes that were implemented when they changed the covenants. Because Jesus, according to the narrative, was an herbivore. And if you're to be Christ-like, then you should eat as, you are. If you are what you eat and you want to be Christ-like, then the first thing that you should do is implement the quote-unquote eating principle of the person that you followed that had the mental disposition to not wig out. Maybe they understood that the wigging was the parasites that were in the intestines of the Israelites that were under the Mosaic law, because that's why they put the strictness on the kosher law, and the emphasis was on salt on certain meats, because you have to kill off the parasites so you don't become a vehicle to can be driven by the abomination of Shaitan, who they said operates in the abominals of man, in his gut. Once again, gut being God, etymologically in the German root, gut is gut, and that's the same word as God. My niggas. Deuteronomy 12:7. We still in the Tanakh. We still in the Tanakh. Deuteronomy 12:7. One place for worship. To that place you are to bring your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and heave offerings, your vow offerings and free will offerings, as well as the firstborn of your herds and flocks, right? They want the firstborns, my nigga. These are entities and deities that are bloodthirst, and they have a preference about how they want you to supply them the blood that they need to hear you out, or they're gonna air you out.
There in the presence of the Lord your God, you and your household shall eat and rejoice in all you do, because the Lord your God has blessed you. You are not to do as we are doing here today, where everyone does what seems right in his own eyes. But I would say this, I will go on a fucking ledge and say, again, as much as people turn their nose and speak how they speak about these customs, ways, and traditions, look at the people who are operating in accordance with them, who are operating as bootleg versions of you, who don't look like you, right? And yeah, they might be dabbling in some real dark shit as well, but they have the things that you covet in terms of the riches, prosperity, the homes, the community, right? Robust families and shit like that, legacies, endowments, right? Titans of industry, intelligentsia, all of those things from a community that probably only represents 2% of the population. You would want that, right? Maybe it's because of the offerings that they give. Maybe it's because of their focus to strict obedience to rites, ceremonies, and rituals. Because everyone on the planet must have one. Your failure to have such does not exclude you. Because someone finessed you out of this shit don't mean that you don't supposed to replace it with something. How do you pay tithes, my nigga? Right? Because God wanted in blood. And if there's more than one God that they're talking about on the planet, how do you know that this Jesus nigga is a sit-in for the other God that's bloodthirsty, that wants blood? Because he's showing you how his benefaction still exists on the planet for the people that's feeding him exactly what he wants and exactly how he wants it. You know what I'm saying? And he wash up any and everyone that comes through the land of Canaan, because he already promised that to his children. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that what's happening over there is right. I'm just saying it's in alignment with scripture. Hey. 1 Chronicles 29:22. The day they ate and drank with great joy in the presence of the Lord. Then for a second time, they designated David's son Solomon as king, anointing him before the Lord as ruler and Zadok as the priest. Right? And this all goes back again. Now this goes back to Solomon and the deals that he made and the pacts that he made. You feel me? And how them people that you see and what you would consider to be power and what have you, they're really utilizing those seals of Solomon, right? So yeah, they're dabbling in all kind of shit. Joshua 12:7, the kings defeated west of the Jordan. And these are the kings of the land that Joshua and the Israelites conquered beyond the Jordan to the west, from Baal-Gad in the valley of Lebanon to Mount Halak, which rises towards Seir. According to the allotments to the tribes of Israel, Joshua gave them an inheritance: the hill country, the foothills, the Arabah, the slopes, the wilderness, and the Negev, the lands of the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. They always giving somebody's land away. They always double booking the Airbnb, right? Where do they get the wherewithal? Where do they get the gall? Oh, from their God. Not saying it's right, my nigga. I'm just showing, like, if your God was telling you this and your God pushed other people out of the land and told you that you're going to be there, but then turned around and cursed the land. Nigga, that's gaslighting. Joshua 13:1. Now Joshua was old and well along in years, and the Lord said to him, you are old and well along in years, but every much of the land remains to be possessed. This is the land that remains, all of the territories of the Philistines and the Jeshurites, from the Shihor east of Egypt to the territory of Ekron on the north, considered to be Canaanite territory, that of the 5 Philistine rulers of Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron, as well as that of the Evites. So how do you get a people off of the land that have been there forever? Right? You demonize them, you criminalize them, you create these scenarios where they become the bad guys, and then you give yourself permission to wash them up. And then you say that there's a biblical decree, there's a narrative that allows you to be that aggressive and do those things. And that, my people, is called game. But everybody needs some. So if you don't got game, you being gamed. What's our game? What does our game look like? Who gave us something? Or we just here working the land? Give me 1 second, y'all. Yeah. In modern parlance, that shit is called manifest destiny. It's called manifest destiny, right? They gave themselves permission to operate in this capacity through Christian ideology, and it's called manifest destiny over here in the name of Christ and in the name of religion. They're in a whole nother book. Yeah, then eminent domain, when that don't work, when they got to call it something different. Or you calling them out because you like, nah, son, what we doing? They're like, yeah, eminent domain now, nigga. Get them off the land. All right, give me one. I'm trying to figure out why this thing is not oh, that's what's taking place. I'm doing goofy shit. All right. My bad. Nah, not Genesis. Deuteronomy, Leviticus, we did that. Deuteronomy, we did that. Give me 1 second, y'all. Studio. I just gotta clear some space up. All right. I clear some space up. But if you like what you're hearing this day, we do have options for you to bypass having to offer up a leg of a lamb or something. You could just show your love and send us some tithes over here. You ain't got to give a leg of lamb. You can hit the Cash App and show some love while we get this thing together here. If you find it in your heart. Remove from studio. Remove from studio. Move from studio. All right, 1 Samuel's, I think. Okay, we could go with this. This is 1 Samuel 12:7, Samuel's farewell address. Then Samuel said to the people, the Lord is the one who appointed Moses and Aaron and who brought your fathers up out of the land of Egypt. Now present yourselves so that I may confront you before the Lord with all of the righteous acts he has done for you and your fathers. When Jacob went to Egypt, your fathers cried out to the Lord, and he sent them Moses and Aaron, who brought your fathers out of Egypt and settled them in this place. And when they say in this place, they mean Palestine or Canaan land. Let's do a cross reference before we move on. This is Joshua 24:2. And Joshua said to all of the people, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Long ago, your fathers, including Terah, the father of Abraham and Nahor, lived beyond the Euphrates and worshipped other gods. And when he meant by that is lived beyond the Euphrates, they come from the land of Ur and Chaldea. They're Babylonian. Okay? Abram is a Babylonian. And he put Ham on the end of his name and made him Abraham. But I took your father Abraham from beyond the Euphrates and led him through all of the land of Canaan. And Ham, right, is a land, and Ham is Palestine. It's just another word for Palestine. And led him through all of the land of Canaan, and I multiplied his descendants. I gave him Isaac, and to Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. I gave Esau Mount Seir to possess, but Jacob and his sons went down to Egypt. Okay? There's a lot of land right theft taking place. There's a lot of land appropriation. There's a lot of double booking of Airbnbs left and right. A lot of that taking place for people that are not from that land, right? This has been the most disputed, I'm going to give you a land to somebody else, piece of property in existence. Samuel, got the Samuels. This is 2 Chronicles. Shishak raised Jerusalem. So the leaders of Israel and the king humbled themselves and said, the Lord is righteous. When the Lord saw that they had humbled themselves, the word of the Lord came to Shimei, saying, they have humbled themselves. I will not destroy them, but will soon grant them deliverance. My wrath will not be poured out on Jerusalem through Shishak. Nevertheless, they will become his servants, so they may learn the difference between serving me and serving the kings of other lands. Feel me? Let's do a cross reference and then we'll move on. Jeremiah 18:7. At any time I might announce that a nation or kingdom will be uprooted, tore down, and destroyed. This nigga, he got Trump in him. I done figured it out. Trump is the God of the Old Testament. And that nigga sign his tweet and be like, bring this to your no, it would. Bring this to your attention for your further review. At any time, I might announce that a nation or kingdom will be uprooted, tore down, and destroyed. But if that nation I warned turns from evil, then I will relent of the disaster that I had planned to bring. If that nation cuts a check and gives me what I want, then I'm going to take my bombers from there. But if that nation don't pay me tribute, I'm going to use the vast resources that I have militaristically to become God and rain fire on you. Do you not see the correlation? Right? And as you'd be like, yo, Pill tripping. No, Pill is not tripping, my nigga. This is how it goes. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sounds very Roman. This is what happens when Rome has the power and able to play God through switching mirrors, right? When people are able to play with religion, when people are able to play as kings in this divine kingdom, when we're fed nursery rhymes about the importance and the seriousness of this thing, then this mockery is allowed to take place. And we're bearing witness to the true, unadulterated abuse of power that comes absolutely with power for people who have not qualified themselves for it. Psalms 12:7, the godly are no more. The godly are no more. The words of the Lord are flawless, like silver refined in a furnace, like gold purified sevenfold. You, O Lord, will keep us. You will forever guard us from this generation. They're talking about the YNs. The wicked wander freely, and vileness is exalted amongst men. Again, resurrecting dead letter religion, breathing life and pouring water into it and making it a living testament is what we're doing here. Right? We're an hour and 15 minutes in here. Pouring life into the word like it was a chia pet. The words of the Lord are flawless, like silver refined in a furnace, like gold purified sevenfold. You, O Lord, will keep us. You will forever guard us from this generation. The wicked wander freely, and vileness is exalted amongst men. Vileness is exalted amongst men. The nerve of niggas to be mad at Puff and they had enough, but they mad because he dragged his nuts, but he was setting the template for a generation for 30 years. Now, I'm not saying what Sean did is right or wrong, but I'm saying Sean did it. And in order for Sean to get the shit done, motherfuckers stood by and they watched. And some people emulated. Some people imitated. And now these niggas want to play holier than thou. Now, I'm not saying what he did was right or wrong. What I'm saying is he told you he had intentions on being a bad boy, and you applauded him. Nehemiah 12:7, the priests and the Levites who returned. Shemaiah, Joyarib, Jediah, Shalu, Amok, Hekiah, and Jebiah. These were the leaders of the priests and their associates in the days of Jeshua. The Levites were Jeshua, Benui, Kadmiel, Sherebiah, Judah, and Mattaniah, who, with his associates, led the songs of the Thanksgiving. These was the singing niggas. This was the congregation in the chorus. They was the ones in the bleachers with names like that, you know. Like Cletus. You know they could sing. You know with names like that they could sing, nigga. Yeah, them was the singers. Oh man, sins of the father, y'all. Today's sermon is aptly titled Sins of the Father. All right. And not to let the mom off the hook. Janice said, I don't know what you niggas talking about. Billie Jean is not my child. Bad boy for life, yeah. For life. You heard him. You heard him. Now we playing mute. Wasn't he keeping it real? You told you what time it was. He ain't lied. Right? It's just this illusion that we swear that we invincible to everyone else that's looking. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, son, like, yeah, y'all knew what time it was. Why y'all told him no? Like, nigga, we were all party to the party. You think you invisible in the culture? You're presenting yourselves in front of the globe. Everybody can see this shit. And therein lies the problem. You know what I'm saying? When the sins of the father visit the child, and that child is on a global stage, right? And the whole world is watching. And then that's the measuring stick that we'll all be measured from. That's the metric from which we get measured from a broken man who we have championed on for X amount of years while he had exhibited irrational bad boy behavior. And then allowed that to become the cultural norm, the terraform society where now you're raising as parents children that have to acquiesce to the mentalism, the mentality, the world that was created and terraformed by Sean. So you have to we cheered the dysfunction, we partied with it, we celebrated it, and then you succumb to it. You know what I'm saying? And you feed your children to it to just later on complain about it. I need to see more accountability. Job 12:7. Job responds to Zophar. The tent of robbers are safe, and those who provoke God are secure. The tents of robbers are safe because they got them things on them, right? They don't got a prayer circle, my nigga. They got a guard outside. At least they're invested enough to guard their booty where they've created a net of safety. The tents of robbers are safe, and those who provoke God are secure. Those who carry their God in their hands. But ask the animals, and they will instruct you. Ask the birds of the air, and they will tell you. Or speak to the earth, and it will teach you. Let the fish of the sea inform you. Okay? Those are living, conscious entities. Are we taking into account their perspective and what they see? Are we taking into account, are we understanding that they're closer to the ground? They got their ears closer to the ground than you do, right? So it also is important that when you do eat them, that you don't eat them, like at something that's raised in doo-doo. Because that communication gets translated to you too. Because you are what you eat. And that's a conscious being that has its own story, this bearing its own witness, that has its own testimony. Isaiah 12:6, joyful thanksgiving. Sing to the Lord, for he has done glorious things. Let this be known in all of the earth. Cry out and sing, O citizens of Zion, for great amongst you is the Holy One of Israel. Okay? And I feel the necessity, even with everything, if I'm asking questions, I have every right to. I was given this amazing mind, right, to see things for what they are. But that doesn't mean for 1 second, microsecond, quantum second, that I'm not appreciative and thankful to the creative force that moves and resonates through me, to the air that I breathe. I'm not getting into titles and particulars because that shit is just too heavy. Why can I just, I'm just an appreciation. Just leave it at that. You feel me? Just leave it at that. To me, air is God. To me, water is God. I'm simplifying this shit. Allow me to. To me, fire is God. Elements. All of this personification and shit like that later on. That's the plus degrees. Let me focus on the basics. First and foremost, I'm appreciative. All of that. And then we got to sort out this other stuff. We got time. Psalms 98:4. Make a joy, and this why, you know, I got this robe on and shit. I'm in my Pope Pablo bag. But I always told y'all that I was appreciative of the word because I heard it through gospel, not just the gospel of Christ, not just the Galatians, not just the good news that Paul brings, gospel music, the nanas, the melanated women that were singing from their soul, right? Even to some degree, some of them melanated men that was preaching on that stage, and they had to carry the word in a way in which I felt a degree of conviction that I said, man, I ain't finna throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's something there. I got to acknowledge it. There's power in it. So think about it like this. Think about them fulfilling their decree. Psalms 98:4. Make a joyful noise to the Lord. All of the earth break forth. Let your cry ring out and sing praises. Sing praises to the Lord with the lyre and melodious songs with the harp, with trumpets and blasts of the ram's horn. Shout for joy before the Lord the King. So I'm a proponent of that we should celebrate, that we should be in celebration, you know, that we should raise our vibration, that we should hum our vessel, right? On some omni padme om, like this stuff works, creating the nitric oxide in our body, that we become the vehicle for health and healing, that we utilize this temple and this vessel for exactly what it was made for, that we get the most usage out of it, that we not healing apparatus on, that we live the most glorified life possible. But you know, sing praises out of thankfulness, out of gratitude, out of gratitude, out of appreciation. You know, when I was investigating, I said, you know, what's the definition? What's the definition for the word love that we can be settled with? To be like, yeah, that I'm with that. That makes sense. And I came up with the highest form of appreciation. Whatever the highest form of appreciation is, nigga, that's what love is, right? Love has to coincide with appreciation. So love, love is played out as gratitude, appreciation, right? Focus, that action verb, that focus factor, right? So the love don't fall flat. So the love don't fall flat. So the love don't fall flat. If we want to put tonality, if we want to put resonance, if we want to build depth in love, if you want to full ventricle love, right? If you want a full valve love, focus on appreciation and gratitude. Oh, give you the link to the chant. On YouTube is Omni Padme Om. I'm gonna drop it here over. If you come over, we're streaming live on YouTube on Know the Ledge Media and also Know the Ledger 444. So I'm gonna drop it over here in the chat on YouTube because I can't drop it in the chat on IG. So yeah, if you pop over here to YouTube, you could grab it out of the chat of the Know the Ledge Media or Know the Ledger 444. Got you. All right. But let me shimmy let me get back into the word real quick because it's a lot. It's a lot of verses, is what I'm saying. It's a lot of content for today. So I want to get through it. Didn't necessarily plan on doing a 3-hour John, but I would if I had to. Because I do want to get through this. And it's a powerful word today. Y'all all right? Hopefully. And again, like I said, I appreciate this because it's free form. Like I don't have a script. I don't come. Sometimes I don't even read the scripture before I get here. You know what I'm saying? I do it all in real time so I can have a real response. But I got to see some of these, but this stuff is not planned. It just falls into, and it's the best form of improvisation and freestyle because I'm surrendering my vessel and I'm letting the word wiggle and jiggle and do what it do. You know what I'm saying? I'm not in control. I'm not overstimulating the control of the flesh. I'm surrendering it to the word. So these is how the words blend into one another. So now here we go. We're in Proverbs 12:7, and it's called Loving Discipline and Knowledge. And I think we was just speaking, you know, to that to some degree, but we're going to see what it says here, and we're going to see what it says in scripture. The words of the wicked lie in wait for blood, but the speech of the upright rescues them. I'm appreciative, y'all. I'm appreciative because, again, like I said, even if I have the wherewithal to ask questions, even if I'm challenging the word, I surrender to it at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and this is fully authentic. The words of the wicked lie in wait for blood, but the speech of the upright rescues them. Right? So don't ever doubt your ability to be a vehicle and an instrument to surrender your flesh for the word to work through you, to connect with other people, to do the work, to do the job. Get the fuck out the way, my nigga. You a tourist. You just down here visiting. The word is eternal. It will last forever. And it is represented by the breath that we breathe that gives us life. So don't cut your words short. Don't be small with your words. Don't be stingy with your words. Right? You here to be a motherfucking instrument, man. Let that word wiggle and jiggle and do what it do. It said, the words of the wicked lie in wait for blood, but the speech of the upright rescues them. The wicked are overthrown and perish, but the house of the righteous will stand. A man is praised according to his wisdom, but a twisted mind is despised. I said, a man is praised according to his wisdom, but a twisted mind is despised. That's a powerful word. That's a powerful one right there. I bear witness. That's a powerful one. I acquiesce. You know what I'm saying? I get in line. I acquiesce. You know, when it's hitting, I got to give it up. Ecclesiastes 12:7. Remember your creator. Are we rolling now? Remember him before the silver cord is snapped and the golden bowl is crushed, right? Remember him before the silver cord is snapped. So we have an ethereal connection to our creator. We have a ethereal connection, and it is described visually as a silver cord. As a silver cord, we have a silver thread that connects us to creator, to an over mind, part of an overlord that goes into an overseer, right? That goes into the higher mind of all things. It's like a hierarchical system, but it's still a string. Before that cord gets cut and the golden bowl is crushed, the orb that you are surrounded by right now, you exist in covering, in a cosmic covering. You exist within the bosom and the canopy of this universe. In this life, we are here in this body as vehicles to take trips and travels through time and space, to bear witness, We are like embodied AI. We embodied with spirit, bearing witness here on the physical plane, right? Able to take a shit and to take a piss, but also make children, experience love, run a bag up, get jiggy with it, all that. Be grateful. I'm in gratitude. It's been 50 years in this trip, in this flesh, in this spacesuit, in this vehicle, right? You got to show gratitude every single day. You got to remember the creator. Before the dust returns to the ground from which it came and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Futility of futility, says the teacher. Everything is futile. Everything is futile. Everything is futile, my nigga. It's gonna be over like this. You holding on to that shit. We have been carrying shit since literally too. We have been carrying shit since the age of 5 and 6, and we've allowed that to rattle our life, rattle our experience down here. We're taking this thing too serious, and there's a degree of seriousness that's required, right? But you're also supposed to enjoy it. You're supposed to have fun with it. You're also supposed to be an alchemist in the midst of it. Were you able to transfer this shit into what you need it to be, into fuel? And it don't weigh you down. It don't boggle you down. It don't get the best of you, right? It don't win the tug of war. Can't win the tug of war. It can't win the tug of war. You feel me? You got to find that perfect balance, though. And that's the challenge. The challenge is to find that perfect balance of seriousness and lightheartedness, enjoyment. You know what I'm saying? Isaiah 42:5. This is what the Lord says. He who created the heavens and stretched them out, he who spread out the earth and his offspring, who gives breath to the people on it and life to those who walk in it. Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, we did that. That was Isaiah. Okay. See what we got here. Jeremiah 12:7. God's answers to Jeremiah. Even your brothers, your own father's household, even they have betrayed you. Even they have cried aloud against you. Do not trust them, though they speak well of you. I have forsaken my house. I have abandoned my inheritance. I have given the love of my life into the hands of her enemies. My inheritance has become to me like a lion in the forest. She has roared against me. Therefore, I hate her. Brothers out there, do you have daughters, right? Speaking about the sins of the father, you know, sometimes the sins of the father will visit. Sometimes the sins of the father will visit the father because, you know, he was out there. He was hard on the women's before he had that daughter. He was hard on the women's before he had that daughter. And then he had that daughter and she started liking niggas that resembled her daddy. And then he was in the terror dome. All right. Sins of that. Somebody said, what about sins of that mother? We'll cover that. Isaiah 51. This is what the Lord says. Where is your mother's certificate of divorce with which I sent her away? Or to which of my creditors did I sell you? Look, you were sold for your iniquities, and for your transgressions your mother was sent away. God damn it. That's some cold-blooded ish. Somebody in here was pimping. Somebody got a heavy hand. They talking crazy. Lamentations 2:7 before we move on. The Lord has rejected his altar, has abandoned his sanctuary. He has delivered the walls of her palaces into the hands of the enemy. They have raised a shout in the house of the Lord as on the day of an anointed feast. Don't deliver your daughters into the hands of enemies. Your palace, your temple, your castle, your country, your children, but your most prized possession. Speaking to the fathers, don't let them get your babies. Ezekiel 12:7, signs of the coming captivity. And as they watch, lift your bags to your shoulders and take them out at dusk. Cover your face so that you cannot see the land. For I have made you a sign to the house of Israel. So I did as I was commanded. I brought out my bags for exile by day, and in the evening I dug through the well by hand. I took my belongings out at dusk, carrying them on my shoulder as they watched. And in the morning the word of the Lord came to me. Let's do a cross reference and then move on. Jeremiah 19:1. This is what the Lord says. Go and buy a clay jar from a potter. Take some of the elders of the people and leaders of the priests and go out to the valley of Ben Hinnom near the entrance of the potsherd gate. Proclaim there the words I speak to you, saying, hear the word of the Lord, O kings of Judah and residents of Jerusalem. This is what the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, says. I am going to bring such disaster on this place that the ears of all who hear it will ring. Ooh, what a proclamation, right? What a proclamation. Daniel 12:7, Michael's deliverance in the end times. One of them said to the man dressed in linen who was above the waters of the river, how long until the fulfillment of these wonders? And the man dressed in linen who was above the waters of the river raised his right hand and his left hand towards heaven. And I heard him swear by him who lives forever, saying, it will be for a time, in times, and half a time, When the power of the holy people has finally been shattered, all these things will be completed. I heard, but I did not understand. So I asked, my Lord, what will be the outcome of these things? He said, it's going to be for a time and times and half a time. Like, all right, what exactly do you mean by that, my nigga? Revelations 10:5 is a cross reference. Then the angel I had seen standing on the sea and on the land lifted up his right hand to heaven. I lift my right hand to God. And he swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and everything in it, the earth and everything in it, and the sea and everything in it. There will be no more delay, but in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he begins to sound his trumpet, the mystery of God will be fulfilled, just as he proclaimed to his servants and the prophets. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Amen. These some powerful proclamations, powerful ones. Yes, Babylon will fall. Hosea 12:7. A reproof of Ephraim, Judah, Jacob. But you must return to your God, maintaining love and justice and always waiting on your God. A merchant loves to defraud with dishonest scales in his hand. And Ephraim boasts, how rich I have become. I have found wealth for myself. In all of my labors, they can find in me no iniquity that is sinful. Right? So Ephraim was a righteous hustler. He said, I ain't got no dirt on my hands. I ain't got no dirt on my name. I ain't got no stain on my name. I ain't dabbling in dope or nothing like that. I made honest bread. Let's do this cross-reference because we were speaking about land earlier. We're going to be speaking about land through this whole thing. I want to speak to you about planting seeds and farming and the importance of this book. It really comes down to food sovereignty, right? They are saying that you have to have the best land with the best accessible nutrients, the best mineral density foods, and the better you feed yourself, the better you will become as people to become my people. Amos 8:5 asking, when will the new moon be over that we may sell grain? When will the Sabbath end that we may market wheat? Let us reduce the ephoth and increase the shekel. Let us cheat with dishonest scales. Let us buy the poor with silver and the needy for a pair of sandals, selling even the shaft with the wheat. Damn, that's very deceitful, right? But they're saying shit, when times is hard, they want to hustle dishonestly. They want to take people for whatever they could take them for. And I'm saying the famine is coming. So who's going to feed us, right? They already are using dishonest scales in these stores with inflation prices. That's a dishonest scale. The shit that they asking for that food ain't worth that. You shouldn't be having to pay that for the type of food that they're selling for those prices. Those are dishonest scales. They're telling you that there's things in that particular food that are not in there. Those are dishonest scales, right? That food is being taxed out of existence. Those are dishonest scales. Zechariah 12:7. Our people have comorbidities that can be cured, that we need to step forward with solutions for. And I'm not going to talk about it in 26. We have solutions. We ready. I've crossed the rubrics. I'm 50 years old. I have a mandate to put this motherfucking work in. And the legacy part of more land is going to be dealing more with the land than anything else, right? The land is the sustenance for any and everything that we're looking for, that we need: food, clothing, and shelter during a time when we are being forced to be independent and solvent for ourselves, just like the Israelites when they were pushed through deserts into providence, into the Holy Land. So yes, our blessings await us. Yes, our providence is before us. Yes, promised land has been promised, but God damn it, You got to get up on the good foot, to get up on the good road, to get up with some good news, right? And it all starts when you start eating that good food. Hallelujah. Jerusalem will be attacked. Zechariah 12:7. On that day, I will make the clans of Judah like a fire pot in a wood pile, like a flaming torch amongst the sheaves. They will consume all of the people around them on the right and the left, while the people in Jerusalem remain secure there. The Lord will save the tents of Judah first, so that the glory of the house of David and the people of Jerusalem may not be greater than that of Judah. On that day, the Lord will defend the people of Jerusalem, so that the weakest amongst them will be like David, and the house of David will be like God, like the angel of the Lord going before them. Going before them. Okay? Ezekiel 36:8. Let's sing these holy praises of food cultivation, of sovereignty and independence for a nation of people that exists within another nation now. Do you hear me? Ezekiel 36:8. But you, O mountains of Israel, will produce branches and bear fruit for my people Israel, for they will soon come home. For behold, I am on your side. I will turn towards you, and you will be tilted and sown. I will multiply the people upon you. The house of Israel in its entirety, the cities will be inhabited, and the ruins rebuilt. God damn it. Right? If they could gentrify a hood, why can't you? And then ask yourself, how do they gentrify hoods? How? They bring a coffee store in there. They bring a bagel spot in a community garden, right? As much as we want to speak about them people, it was a bando yesterday. They came in here, they painted this shit earth tone. They put a coffee shop next to it, and they put a community garden in front of it, and then life started flourishing again. But we be complaining because they're pushing us out of our habitats. But are we utilizing them sidewalks? Are we utilizing them lawns? Are we utilizing those neighborhoods as places where we grow food and sustain ourselves? Are those communities anymore? If niggas are selling crack in it? Huh? So maybe that signals to the universe that a change has to take place. A change must come because one generation has overridden the other generation, and no generation is supposed to punch down. Right? So the sins of the father are visiting the children and visiting the land. My nigga, those neighborhoods are not trap houses. The exception can't be the rule. Those houses can't be prioritized to sell poison, and then the exception is every other garden here and there strewn about. But we stopped feeding ourselves, and we think we're going to feed ourselves through crack sales, my nigga. That's not going to happen. That's not sustainable. It's an exception, not a rule. You're supposed to get off the titty of inequity. If you are forced to do those things because you need to fall back on something, then you atone for this shit. And you pay your tithes, my nigga. There's a required payment, but you can absolve yourselves of those sins and cleanse. You can cleanse the sins and then get back to living again in abundance. We're not doing the necessary scrubbing, right? We are building stuff on shaky foundations. You can't build sandcastles on sand, my nigga. Or you can't build skyscrapers on sand. You can fancy yourself and build all of the sandcastles that you want, but when the waves come, and the waves gonna come, right? That sandcastle is very temporary. Matthew 12:7, the Lord of the Sabbath. But I tell you that something greater than the temple is here. If only you had known the meaning of I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocents, for the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. Okay, if only you would have known the meaning of I desire mercy, not sacrifice. So this new covenant, right? Now we're in the New Testament, and we understand that the new covenant that they say is what? That the new Messiah who comes with a new covenant, who is going to overwrite the old covenant, says what? That you no longer have to admonish your sins or cleanse your sins by quote unquote sacrificing or bringing me an animal, right? You don't have to pay your penance in blood anymore. Instead, I want mercy, right? Instead, I want to know where your heart is at. Instead, I want to know that you have the capacity to forgive yourself, or you have the wherewithal to contain the capacity of forgiveness, nigga. If I forgive you this time, and you make a pledge and an oath to yourself and the version of me that you think is so perfect, namaste, right? Can you hold your own word up? And if you can do that, but I got to put all of these parameters outside of your head to say, oh, I'm Christ and I'm watching. Oh, the angels are scribing. No, it's being recorded in your ribosomes. It's, your DNA is nigga, your epigenetics is scribing it. It is who you are. Yeah, definitely two different gods that play in these books. Right? Because if God is infallible, if God is all-knowing and he's omnipotent and omnipresent, how does he have to amend himself so many times? This is 2.0. This is the update and the upgrade. This is the flipping of the switch. This is the remix. This is the remodeling. This is I go from a select few to the all. Right? This is the final call. This is the final play. This is the Big Ten event. Why he just ain't do all of that in the beginning? Why does he have to self-correct himself if he's perfect? Or is it all necessary for theater that you just got to play it out, right? You got to play it out. Hosea 6:6, for I desire mercy, not sacrifice, and the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings, right? Rather than burnt offerings. So the definition of Holocaust is burnt offerings. That's the actual word. That's what it means, right? And that is how for certain offerings, sacrifices that were mandated by the God of the Old Testament, he wanted burnt offerings. He wanted particular entrails set certain places. You got to fill the cups up with blood and put them in a certain place. You got to put the fat in another place. And then you got to burn it with certain incense because it has to have a particular aroma, you feel me, to attract. It has to become succulent in order for God to respond to your prayers. This is the system that they're running, or they've been running. It was replaced with another system. They all came from an older system. Mark 12:7, the parable of the wicked tenants. Finally, having one beloved son, he sent him to them. They will respect my son, he said. But the tenants said to one another, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and the inheritance will be ours. So they seized the son, killed him, and threw him out of the vineyard. You understand? So this has always been about birthright theft and land right theft. You know what I'm saying? Protect your firstborn like it is beyond gold. Male seed or female seed. I had a whole message earlier for the fathers of daughters and for the fathers of son. Be uber and super protective of these young men. How dare you abandon these children? And the curse of the first son is replete through all religions in all times. How dare you niggas? right? And I don't know everybody's situation and everybody's case, so let me not be in judgment, right? But yo, it's a serious oversight. I was raised around young men who were raised in pain because of a missing parent, and a mother that had to overcompensate, and they had to bear witness to that, and that shit hardened a lot of their hearts. And they hurt people. And these was the niggas that was putting in the most pain in these streets, running up body counts and shit like that out of pain, right? Because of the abandonment of what that father represents. And it seems to be expressive of them hunting the firstborns. Okay. Acts 4:27. In fact, this is the very city where Herod and Pontius Pilate conspired with the Gentiles and the people of Israel against your holy servant Jesus, whom you anointed. They carried out what your hand and will had decided beforehand would happen. Right? Because it's like, what did they catch Jesus? Did they catch him off guard, nigga? That he did not know that this was part of the script? Or do he have to play the script? So you didn't know who Judas was from the beginning? You could not discern that? How can you allow the serpent to creep on you and you omnipresent, you omnipotent and omnipotent in your gnosis? And then the big homie, you got the big homie watching over you like a drone, like the overhead. How did they sneak on you? How was you caught off guard? How was you in surprise? How did you feel pain? That's very human of you. You gonna let a nigga nail a nail through your hand, but you not gonna nail that woman that was next to you and feel that before you get the fuck up out of here? God, where's your wife? John 3:19, and this is the verdict. The light has come into the world, but men love the darkness rather than the light because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and does not come into the light for fear that his deeds will be exposed. They're doing the nasty in the dark, my nigga, and they were doing it before the light came here, because technically the darkness preceded the light here, even according to their creation mythos that they give you in the book. It was dark on the face of the planet. It was dark in the seas first, right? Darkness precedes light. So things that take place in the dark is none of the business of you niggas who want to keep the lights on, right? Because creation happens in darkness. So go mind your neck. Here you come with your morality. The shit that's taking place in the dark needs to take place. It's necessary for the underpinning of creation, because everything comes from dirt. Luke 12:7. Right? Think about how so God favored the clan of Cain first. The killers, drillers, murderers, and drug dealers was the first bloodline because the nigga killed off Abel. So when you asking who are these people that were populating all of these other places and they were warlike people, nigga, the progenitor of their seed had to be Canaan or Cain before Canaan, huh? Luke 12:7, fear God alone, and not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies, are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies, yet not one of them is forgotten by God. Listen to this, are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies. So even at auction, if you want to go and make, you got to make an offering, you got to go to the auction and get your animals, and you might get a guinea fowl and the shit is extra, is inexpensive. But what it means in terms of the offering that you're making to the entity or the deity that you are making offerings to, that shit means the world to it, because that's what it eats. That's how it feasts. And it will never forget the life of that particular offering or that sacrifice, because that's what that sacrifice is doing. It's offering his life as a medium, right? For you to get some shit to get done. It's part of your story. Yet none of them is forgotten by God, and even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So do not be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. I tell you, everyone who confesses me before men, the Son of Man, will also confess him before the angels of God. Isaiah 49:15. And let us repeat. Sins of the father. Somebody asks, what about sins of the mother? I said, we'll get to that. Can a woman forget her nursing child or lack compassion for the son of her womb? Even if she could forget, I will not forget you. Behold, I have inscribed you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are even before me. Right? There was a lot of children lost to abortion. You know, when we have these conversations about divinity and divine intervention and who God forgives and forgets and who he doesn't, 20-something million children did not see the day of light, right? Because somebody wanted to forget them. And even those souls are accounted for. There is a price to pay for that, because you are always spiritually tethered. And I'm telling you, from a ceremonial priesthood perspective, right? These are things that will always come up in readings for people. These are things that will always be diagnosed as part of your spiritual checkup. If you had an abortion, those things are tethered and connected to you. Those children still exist in ethereal realms. You're still responsible for them. You know what I'm saying? You're still responsible for them. Don't think that they go away. John 12:7, Mary anoints Jesus. Judas did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As keeper of the money bag, he used to take from what was put into it. Leave her alone, Jesus replied. She has kept this perfume in preparation for the day of my burial. The poor you will always have with you. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. So, yeah, I mean, you know, like the nigga, he had to know about Judas. Luke 7:37, when a sinful woman from that town learned that Jesus was dining there, she brought an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears and wipe them with her hair. Then she kissed his feet and anointed them with the perfume. You know what I'm saying? She wanted that work. She wanted that work. Acts 12:7, the rescuer of Peter. On the night before Herod was to bring him to trial, Peter was sleeping between two soldiers, bound with two chains, with sentries standing guard at the entrance of the prison. Suddenly, an angel of the Lord appeared at a light shone in the cell, an apparition. He tapped Peter on the side and woke him up, saying, "Get up quickly." And the chains fell off his wrists. "Get dressed and put on your sandals," said the angel. Peter did so. So the angel told him, "Wrap your cloak around you and follow me." Let's do a cross reference. Genesis 19:15. And this is for them people to be getting them taps on them shoulders, right? This is for them people to be getting them spiritual interventions. Do you be listening, right? Do you question it, or do you have stories? I got some. Genesis 19:16. At daybreak, the angels hurried Lot along, saying, "Get up, take your wife and your two daughters who are there, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city." But when Lot hesitated, the man grabbed his hand and the hands of his wife and his two daughters, and they led him safely out of the city because of the Lord's compassion for them. I want to give a rest in peace to a sister from our community, a sister named PJ, who lost her life over the Thanksgiving period of time. She was attempting, or she did rescue her own children out of a fire in her building, but she succumbed to the flames. You know, so may her soul resonate in paradise. May it rise in paradise. May it repatriate in paradise. May it return in power. Right? She's a legend. Romans 12:7. Living sacrifices. We have different gifts according to the grace given to us. If one's gift is prophecy, let him use it in proportion to his faith. If it is serving, let him serve. If it is teaching, let him teach. If it is encouraging, let him encourage. If it is giving, let him give generously. If it is leading, let him lead with diligence. If it is in showing mercy, let him do it cheerfully. Okay? We all have different graces given to us. We should all show up in aspects of appreciation different. And I know that there's someone going through it right now, right? I can hear you. I can feel you. I hear the voice in my ear, right? But I'm here to affirm to you to give grace to yourself, because it could be worse. And you could literally be up out of here. And if you are hanging on by a thread of life, and you have to in order to be hearing this, right, you still got to be tapped in. You still got air in your lungs. You still got blood flowing through your veins. You still got life in your body. Have grace with yourself. Don't beat up on yourself based on your present situation, circumstance, or condition. Sit with yourself and be like, where does grace show up for me differently than it does for somebody else? Because wherever that's at, I'm going to amplify it. Even if I'm laying on my back in a hospital bed, right? I'm going to figure out a way that the thing that I can do, I'm going to do it. I'm going to amplify it. And you can figure that out, however it is, even if it's just you being intentional in your heart. Do you know that the imagination is a realm too? Do you know that the imagination holds weight? If thoughts are things and words are worlds, right? Do you know that you can sit there and think about it, write about it, right? And they be like, some things action is required. Yeah, you can be very active in your mind. You can slow your breathing down and just get into your imagination. And fall into a state of theta, lucid living, into theta wave state, like just to control breathing. You're a vessel, you're a vehicle. You can go anywhere and take us with you, my nigga. It don't got to be physical, but you got to feel it. 1 Corinthians 12:7, spiritual gifts. There are different ways of working. There are different ways of working, but the same God works all things in all people. Now, to teach one the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. To one, there is given through the Spirit the message of wisdom, to another, the message of knowledge by the same Spirit. You understand? We all are receptors and receivers of the grace of God, of gifts, of providence, right? We are all God's favorites. You understand? And it shows up different ways in our life. And yeah, the word is heavy. This shit is making me emotional because I'm bearing witness. Somebody needs to hear this. Ephesians 4:11. And it was he who gave some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some to be evangelicals, some to be pastors and teachers, to equip the saints of work of ministry and to build up the body of Christ. And when I say the body of Christ, I mean a body of light. I mean instructions that are so instinctual, right? That you are a person who appreciates and loves out of all four valves of your heart. You're a person who has a connection to their creator, their mother and their father, and preferably to the physical ones as well, that you are in deep appreciation regardless of what the situation is, right? So you can make way for your return visit so you can do it better next time around if you was so displeased with this here trip, right? I just want to share with you how to keep the door open. That's all. Spiritual gifts. 2 Corinthians 12:7. Paul's thorn and God's grace. And I literally was going to say, to correct the mishaps that was done by my namesake Paul by mystifying religion and making this concept of Christ become a person that's so out of reach, when it's literally principled in how you see yourself in your relation to your creator. Paul's thorn and God's grace. Even if I wanted to boast, I would not be a fool, because I would be speaking the truth. But I refrain so no one will credit me with more than he sees in me or hears from me, or because of these surpassingly great revelations. So to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. Okay? So even with me bearing witness, even with me saying, oh, wow, on a day like today, I bear witness that I have the command of the word. It is not me. I should not grow conceited. I'm a vehicle. I've surrendered myself. I already put the ego on the altar and told you what it was. The credit should not come to me. I've offered myself, this vehicle of flesh, right, as a vehicle that the word could wiggle and jiggle, right, and get jiggy with it and speak to somebody who needs to hear this morning. And that is the beauty of this all, is that if you have a vehicle like Paul, then you can also sacrifice yourself up to become a vehicle for light, for the Most High, to move through, to speak through, to wiggle and jiggle. You know what I'm saying? Give people what they need in the way in which they'll best receive it. Now people like rhythm, right? And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that, like I said, the word will fall into one another without it being scripted. God disciplines his sons, sins of the father, episode 140. Hebrews 12:7. For the Lord disciplines the one he loves, and he chastises every son he receives. Endure suffering as discipline. God is treating you as sons, for what son is not disciplined by his father? If you do not experience discipline like everyone else, then you are illegitimate children and not true sons. Okay? So what qualifies you as being one of them ones, the son of the one, right? The chosen one. You've been through some things? Have you had some adversary, adversarial times? Have you ever thought about quitting? Did you ever need a crutch, right? Then you God's chosen. You amongst the first flock of the firstborn. It's not Jesus, my nigga. That's a mirror to you. Okay? Let it not be so goddamn singular. You're talking about us all, right? It's the Father. Now we are in Revelations 12:7, and we close out here. The war in heaven, right? As above, so below. Okay? As above, so below. They going through it up there. Why you got soft life down here, nigga? You in the war. It's principalities, though, right? It's simulation with real casualties. Like Ready Player One. Better preach. The war in heaven. And the woman fled into the wilderness where God had prepared a place for her to be nourished for 1,260 days. Now, that had to be a food forest, my niggas. Okay? As it begins, so shall it end. Our focus as men should be providers of nourishment, food, clothing, and shelter. Let's go back to these farms, right? Activate the farmy and provide sustenance. Okay? The best parts have been set aside for you, the land. You in the South, you got access to land? Huh? What better blessing than that, than being able to feed yourself? Everything else will fall into place. But let you not be able to eat, my nigga. Right? You're going to start chastising and cursing God like Job. But he gave you everything that you needed to provide for yourself. He take care of women and fools. But the men, after original sin, you niggas supposed to be able to toil the earth. Husbandry. Raise a seed like a son. That's who we are as people. That was our flex. They said that that's what they came and got us, brought us over here for. Why we not over here doing that? For ourselves. As we face famine, we raised the farmy. And we answered the calling. And we became the best version of ourselves because the mineral rich, nutrition, dense food built the armor of God on us. Little pull-ups and push-ups don't hurt. You know what I'm saying? Get that blood pumping. Then the war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But the dragon was not strong enough, and no longer was any place found in heaven for him and his angels. Okay? This is where we at. Michael leads the charge. Michael is what? The archangel who leads the charge of the legions to fight back against the archangels, to do devastation to the devil, which in this narrative is just the negative mitigating forces. Anything that's against your sustenance, anything that's against your preservation, anything that's against your upcomings, right, is the devil. And it's going to be destroyed because the dragon is not strong enough for what angel Michael and the legions have in store, right? In that war in upper heaven, as they open up the door, and they said, what? They said that Christ come back in all white, sword dripping in blood, getting jiggy with it. He got gems on his shit. Burnt brass feet, hair like wool, all like this shit. But we need to take it back to the garden. That's where our blessings is at, right? And when we got out of the garden, then we got far away from our blessings. Let's take it back to the garden. Let's take it back to this food. Let's take it back to being farmers. Let's take it back. And then we could go forward, right? But we can't go forward without it. Just like the Israelites traveling through the desert for 40 years to get to the promised land. It was triple booked, Airbnb'd already. They didn't have food and sustenance. They had to go and beg other people and get put in precarious positions where they almost uprooted their own birthright, their own blessings, right? It almost became a beggar nation. So, oh man, we got through to it. We got to the end of it. This one was 2 hours, 26 minutes, the number of Yahweh. I want to say thank you. This has been a powerful presentation. My brother Anthony, you just logged in. You got to catch this. You got to just rewind this one back, please, man. That's dope. Buffalo, New York has $1,000 lot purchase program. We definitely have to look into that. Ooh, I got a play and a half of that. You feel me? But I could show you better than I could tell you. Yes. Please, Taquila Smith, hit us up. Send me an email. bluepillar44@gmail. bluepillar44@gmail. Shoot me something so we can dial in on that. On that, you know, and I swear I'll have something more available, laid out strategically before the end of this year. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, yo, we got it. We got it. You know what I mean? We can fulfill the mandate. We could complete the covenant, you know what I'm saying, and renew our own contracts on life. You know, we got it. We got a viable answer that's going to put us in a wonderful position of power and strength. So I definitely want to say thank you, y'all. I appreciate you. Yeah, if you have it within your heart to make a contribution, a donation to Mineral Ministries, there goes the information on the screen, $ Miss Harvey 917. And as always, peace, love, and light. I appreciate you all. I guess we'll close out with some Omni Padme Home. And again, this is important for its production of nitric oxide. If we hum a day just for a minute, you create your look. Let me explain it, right? And I would love to do this for you real quick. As you hum with the tip of your tongue locked to the roof of your mouth, you're creating a closed circuit. So with this closed circuit, you have now created an amplification modulation out of your physical temple, which is your vehicle, that you're now turning now into a bell. And the humming is ringing it like a bell. The cymatics of Om create a configuration where the waters of your body all become one figure, one symbol, right? And that Om symbol is the absolute. It is the Om, it is the monad, if you will. So this is creating nitric oxide, which is healing in your body, reducing oxidative stress. The reduction of oxidative stress allows you to what? Create longer and stronger telomeres, which gives you more life, extension on your life. You know what I'm saying? So I do it for a minute at least to create the necessary amount of nitric oxide in my body that I am now in this regenerative process. I mean, I'm looking a little bit young. I'm 50, goddamn it, and I'm chipping away at it because I'm doing the right things that are necessary to renew myself, to renew my contracts, to rewrite the code, y'all. This shit is hackable. Real talk. And it's doing the right thing. It's just doing the right things. Muted. There you go. Oh,
Om Mani Padme Hum.